Hello, welcome. This is the recording for Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today, August 8th. It's a lovely, astronomical alignment day or something like that. And the question from Judy, a lovely student participant here, about the homeworks. Finding the homeworks a little bit challenging, finding it challenging to work with the equipment. So she says she's got protractors. I would suggest a compass. Compass is this. I'm not sure if this is what you're talking about. So this is a compass, and I can either put a pencil here or a pen here. Yeah, good. And yeah, so these can be challenging to work with. So I also work with circle templates. You can cut out circles, like some of the examples that I showed from some of the other students, where they might have first, like you can use this to make a perfect circle on a piece of paper, and then you can cut that circle out. And you can do that with different colored papers, or you can paint them yourselves, and you can stack them up. What I'm attempting to do, so Judy asked, she's saying, this homework is frustrating. So first of all, if anybody's experiencing homework frustrations, that's not my intention. My intention is to give tools for perception, tools for understanding something that is actually very challenging to understand because it's not visible to our physical eyes. So how can we talk about this stuff? So I think tactile really helps. And in sharing these suggestions, my approach, I'm giving you my approach, that this is basically how I did it, because I did a lot of self-organizing. You know, when I first got here into this body, I had to organize my neurology, and at first I didn't have drawing tools like this, and I just did a lot of, you would almost consider it scribbling, but like very freehand doing, and what I was doing was training myself. I was training myself to be able to externalize what was internal. And so the level 1 stuff is about the inner and the outer. I think this is good. It's like a good topic of what we're talking about on our class today. But this is all about each one of you exploring your own particular learning style. So some people also might have been in the class for many years, so they might have a bit more facility with the ideas. And some people are new and they're just starting out, and they're also trying to learn how to express themselves visually. So I would encourage everyone, no pressure. Don't be frustrated. And also I said you have a couple of more weeks before there's a new homework assignment, because this is going to be expressing basically the structure of your chakras, of your anatomy. This is very important information. And wait, let me drink a little bit. So I was watering my garden this morning. I always collect my thoughts. I think about what I need to say for the class, and I take extensive notes to what I want to say. And one of the things that I realized is that I don't think that mostly humanity, let me just mute everybody, even though I love you. You're supposed to mute upon entry. I muted you, mute upon entry. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I'm not aware of any other teachers or presenters of information that are able to show you the specifics of what your energy centers are shaped like, and exactly how big they are in relation to the proportions of the body, and how those relate to the color proportions of light. Like, I'm not aware of anyone else that is sharing that information, and it's crucial information. So again, and I don't turn this class into a sales pitch at all, and everyone is already quite wonderful about enrolling and contributing for participating. But it's why I put this information out here on YouTube as opposed to behind paywall, even though of course I want to sustain my life and pay my electric bill and everything like that. The information is crucial for humanity to have access to right now, because I really feel that humanity is analogous to a woman that is giving birth. Even if you're a man, and welcome men to my class here, you're not excluded in any way. We're giving birth collectively as humanity, as a species. And so knowing about your own anatomy is really crucial and informative to be able to be empowered during that process. Like, if a woman is educated about her body, her anatomy, and the structure and the process of birth, then when you feel a certain thing, like, oh, this is this happening, this is this stage happening. So everyone here, it feels to me like, is flying blind, going through these events of giving birth on a level of higher consciousness, but without truly understanding the anatomy of the non-physical body, because most people do not have awakened higher senses to be able to see it themselves. And most people haven't been educated by like a midwife that will draw a picture and say like, hey, here's what's going on. So this is my intention. This is my goal. This is what I do here. So all of my paintings that I do they're self-expression, because I'm an artist and I like to express myself and have fun. However, my primary goal is accuracy. So what I'm presenting hi, my dear, hi, the draw. Oh, that's good. Everyone's saying hi behind the scenes. Yeah, I love everybody who's in this class. Thank you for being here. the accuracy really matters. So I'm able to share with you a level of accurate information that I'm not aware of is available anywhere else. And that's why I make sure that it's here available to people, so that you don't have to be going through this birth process. Like, imagine a woman like alone in the woods with no one around to help and doesn't know anything about birthing, the process, anything like that. Like, it could be very daunting. It could be very scary. Yeah, so don't be intimidated. And yeah, even though some people might think that might be preferable to a hospital birth, which can also be very daunting. Don't get me into it. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Eleanor. Great to see you. Thank you, Ellie. So yes, so no pressure on the homeworks. The homeworks are meant to be informative. And if you feel like you need to stop and regroup or whatever, that's great. But also understand that there might just be a different way for you to use your tools in a different way. Oh, that's good to know about that. We were joking about flea solutions before the class started. So I think that's a good segue. I think I've gone through everything there. And level 1 stuff is the inner and the outer. So this matters to the class because this is an important topic. This shape is all about transcending the artificial bifurcation of our world into what we would define as the inner and the outer. So first, let's talk about the cell membrane. You're like, Aurora, the cell membrane, this does not sound very fun and exciting. No, I trust in me. It's very fun and exciting. This is a little story about kind of like how things began on a biological level. That on a biological level, before we invented the cell membrane, there was just lots and lots of goo, right? This is just amino acids and chemicals, and they look like face bigger. There you go. Just a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of chemical soup and proteins and stuff, I would say poop, swimming around together. And that was biological life, right? And then at a certain point, there was something magical that happened that is called the invention of the cell membrane. And this means that there's now a bifurcation, a different set of rules and metabolism for what is going on inside of that boundary, as opposed to where I'm now scribbling in black, which is what is now defined as outside of that boundary. This is also the process of individuation. We went from a big, giant unity consciousness, unified chemical soup, because you don't have a neighbor. Like, it's just like everybody lives in the same communal dwelling. So whatever is happening to that guy over there is happening directly to you. There's no boundaries. Got it? Everything happens to everybody. And so with the invention of the cell membrane was the invention of individuation and individual responsibility. And now in this presentation, I've done this class for like 7 years, 6.5, this is almost 7. I always joke and use my tough guy voice, and I said, yeah, so with the invention of this little cell, it develops this attitude that's like, hey, I'm looking out for number 1. I don't gotta care about nobody else. This is the only thing that matters. All that matters is what's inside of here is me. And that's actually, there's nothing wrong with that attitude, even though I joke about it. It is appropriate for this level of development. This is a unicellular organism, one-celled animal. And yeah, it only got to care about its own little self and its own little journey. It doesn't have to care about many other cells. It only has to care about itself. But this is a very simple form of life. It is not complex, doesn't have complex structure. Complex structure is multicellular life. So that's what happens if we have many, many, many of these. I'm not going to draw 10 trillion of them or 3 trillion of them, but you understand this is more of what we are shaped like. We are shaped like many, many, many cells all fitting together within one giant container. Wait, let's get a different color. Here's a container color. Within one big giant blue container. And that container is your epidermis. But all of these little cells need to work together. It's actually not appropriate for like this little cell over here to say, hey, I'm only looking out for number 1 and I don't got to care about nobody else, because actually you do. You have to care about all of these other little cells that you are metabolizing along with. And if you don't, then you're considered a unhealthy cell, a pathogen, a pathogenic cell, which would be something like a cancer that only cares about itself. So level 2, I have a whole teaching all about cancer. We're not getting into cancer today, but that is, just how you start to understand the value system that is appropriate for a one-celled organism becomes pathogenic in a multi-celled organism. So the value system that is appropriate for one level of personal development and perception and maturity is not applicable as you change and grow and mature into different levels of maturity and complexity. So once you grow into a different level of complexity where you're not just a one-celled animal and now you're this multi-celled animal, all of these cells have to grow in their sense of responsibility. It's not just responsibility to your own little self. You're now responsible to all of your neighbors, because if you're shooting garbage out and they're metabolizing your garbage, then that means it's affecting the entire body. And if all of these cells go awry, then it means that this whole entire blue package dies. And if the blue package dies, then nobody gets to be alive. So that's the longer term motivation or longer term vision that these cells have to have. They have to understand that, hey, you can't just be out for yourself. If you're only out for yourself, you will subsequently destroy or consequently destroy the whole container that contains you, and then there will be no more self. So then what becomes apparent is the need for, co-responsibility and community, and this is us as a multicellular organism. And now I'm going to just go back to my face and just, I don't have to do the drawings or whatever, but we're doing the same thing on a level of social individuation. So I just gave you a biological representation, and that's easy for us to understand because it's cut and dried. Like first there's, that goo, it's mycoplasma. It's like just stuff and goo. First there's just stuff and goo, then there's an individuated cell, and then we get multicellular structures. And someone once asked me, like, oh, Aurora, like what's so great about having a multicellular structure anyway, right? Like what's so great about that? Well, the answer is, if you want to have larger levels of complexity and structure in an organism, in a biological organism, something big instead of something small, you have to have cells, you have to have multi-cells, and you have to have them all working together. So you can have a little tiny amoeba that is so small you can't see it with your naked eye. And you can have a big, giant redwood tree. To have that big, giant redwood tree, you have to have many, many cells that all work together, that all do their jobs, that all fit together and work in a community and are responsible in order to uphold that superstructure. So file that away of what I'm saying, because that has everything to do with our individual journeys, combining the inner and the outer, and being able to still be alive in a larger superstructure that we're talking about. So wait, okay, before I go any further, let me go to David's question. Hello, David. Thank you David is a long-term student in this class and a wonderful supporter. Thank you for being here. He asks, is it correct to say that our chakra system is a vertically arranged set of 7 stacked or nested toroidal structures? Yes, yes, yes. You're wonderful in the questions that you ask, because you give me openings to say, wait, let me just grab a picture. Let me squint and scroll first. Let me just grab a picture that shows exactly what the chakras are. And my pictures are all totally organized, guys, so don't worry. I know exactly what I'm getting here. You know what I want. Here. This one is good. And also, oh my God, I have to really, really squint down here. This one is good. Okay, sorry for that. I'm sure that was an extreme close-up. Share my screen. This part goes away. Here you go. So here's 2 very accurate depictions, but slightly different depictions of the chakras. And this one over here, oops, here, wait, I'll move this one closer and put this one on top. This one is just a line drawing that I'm kind of gesturing over with my cursor, because sometimes I think it's easier to see and understand what is going on without having to do the interpretations of color as well as form. So this is kind of a simplification. We don't have the color in there, but you can see the accuracy of David's words, and now you're seeing what those images look like. So these are accurate anatomical drawings of what your non-physical anatomy is shaped like. Your non-physical anatomy is comprised of a series of waveforms. These are waveforms. They're vibrations, in the same way that music is a vibration, all right? And we're going to get down to DNA vibrations in level 2. These are waveforms. They are generated as structures by their own whirling and swirling energy or momentum, and they emit and are generated from the actions of your physical body. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you have like, like a little spinning thing here that makes your heart, but you know what you do have? You have muscular contractions in the actual muscle of your heart that has a particular electromagnetic frequency, and that is part of what generates this field out here. So you have organs and aspects of the body that generate and emit subtle fields, as well as your DNA itself. I have a guitar, it's all the way back there. But imagine I'm holding a guitar. Guitar has vibrating strings, and when you strum the strings, it makes a waveform because it's jiggling the atmosphere, right? When I press my piano keys, I'm jiggling the atmosphere. I'm making a waveform that can reach your ears. When our DNA jiggles, we're not jiggling the atmosphere, we're jiggling time. So we're all submerged in time. We're playing with the jiggling strings of our DNA, and what we emit are these fields. These fields are like the visual representation of a type of music that our DNA makes. And to be really clear, these drawings that I have over here are like idealized anatomy, like Grecian marbles, perfect anatomy with perfect muscles and, whatever, like perfectly chiseled abs, like in the same way that glorified and idealized the human physical form of athleticism. This idealizes the non-physical form of pure time. And I'm holding up this little structure that is an aspect of time, and also this the hypertorus, higher dimensional torus, that is also an aspect of time. So what I drew here, these are your time bodies. You're made of time. And then there also is your anthropomorphic physicality that we can sense with our five senses that everyone can agree on, and everyone can agree that we are experiencing time. But it is very challenging for humans to talk about a concept that is not visual, that you can't apprehend visually. Like, how do you sink your teeth into something that is invisible? And again, the challenge is that human genetics have been squashed and degraded so that you can't see this stuff. But once you get back on track through doing something like flying rainbow lasagna, then you can see this stuff. You can perceive this stuff. So the accurate chakras, thank you for reminding me that I needed to show everybody that. And Jules says, at some point, might it be possible to do a class on Lyme CFS? Yeah, because I mentioned mycoplasma. So I don't think I could do a whole class on that, but maybe we could do a recording, and maybe it could even be a panel with other people sharing their ideas and what works for them in terms of Lyme, which is, a weaponized mycoplasma. And Jeffrey is asking me, is autism an imbalance at an energetic level or blockage? Big answer to a question there. Hold on a second. Let me drink a little bit. Because I think there's two things going on right now. There's autism, like the actual genetic expression of otherworldly perception and social expression. That's similar to what was in the movie Rain Man, right? That seemed to be very rare. That was very not socially prevalent, as opposed to vaccine damage, which many people are labeling as autism and has similar symptoms and expressions, but I sense that it comes from a different cause. So I think that autism, as it is presented from the movie, is something that is a different, like the way that a person is born with Down syndrome, that they have literally different tuning, a different frequency. They might be a ukulele, they might not be a cello. They are built differently. And I think that can be true of people on a mental level. And the idea of them being a savant, that they are limited in some ways, but hugely gifted in other ways. But vaccine damage does not make a person a savant. And I perceive vaccine damage as literally being because of a person who gets injected with vaccines is being forced to tangentially participate in satanic ritual executions, which are how these cell lines are created. They're created from a fetus that is murdered in a horrible, torturous way. And then that pain of that murder is exponentially grown in lab. It's cultures, it's cell cultures. So science would describe this as stem cells are harvested and then grown in cell cultures in vats and then used as a substrate for vaccines. Like, it would use very sterile language. And you can tell I did not use that sterile language. I used very emotional language intentionally because cells are alive and have a consciousness. So let's relate this to this lesson. I was just talking about the invention of the cell membrane. That cell actually has its own agenda. This just like, you know, if you have, like, who's curled up on the couch? I have a little one over here, right? She's got her own agenda. She's connected to me. She's part of my household, but she's got her own agenda, which mostly means vacuuming the floor of any available crumbs wherever we go. So I'm constantly just battling with her about that. But that's cool. That's her agenda. She's like, I want to do this. I want to do this. That's on her mission. But yeah, she's got to live within my mission, because there's some places where, like, you're not allowed to do that kind of stuff, right? So she's got to listen to me when I say that's not allowed. So it's appropriate to have your own agenda as an individuated human or as an individuated cell, but then it's also hugely important to mitigate what you are doing in terms of the larger organism that you're a part of. So I'm perceiving vaccine damage as these cell lines that have their own consciousness, that was a tortured consciousness that then became exponentially increased, and then being injected into other people's bodies means that there's like a battle royale, a fight to the finish of who is going to win for supremacy in that body. We're talking about not only musicians, like imagine you're playing your music is great, so all of a sudden these other musicians crash your party, and not only are they tuned to a different tuning, it's not just that, but they're like amplified, they're loud, they're playing heavy metal, they're doing what they want to do. So that is what I'm seeing, that there's this battle royale within the vaccine damaged people, that they are trying to be their true selves, and they cannot do that because of these intervening entities. And so part of it is the genetic stem cells and how that relates to aborted fetal cells. And part of it is also heavy metals, what is used for the adjuvants in vaccines. Molecules can be portals for consciousness. So a molecule like mercury, when you ingest it into your body, it's not just that it has a degenerative effect on your neurology, which it does. It means it kills neurons. It kills these little branching things that they die off. They don't branch, they die because you put mercury into the baby. It's not just that, but mercury can also be a portal. Like when you ingest a molecule, it can open up your genetic antenna to then tune in and listen to stuff that you wouldn't be tuned in and listening to otherwise. So it's not just a sense of pollution. Like if you ingest lead or barium or aluminum, it's not just pollution. It is also the idea of a molecular portal. And yes, pharmaceutical drugs and even many non-pharmaceutical drugs, I also classify as molecular portals that make a doorway within you that then allows certain consciousnesses to come in. So be I'm so super cautious about what I ingest. And it's not, I can't even describe it. It's not just merely a cosmetic. Like, it's really because I don't want to ingest a bunch of unwanted consciousnesses into me. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Eleanor says, and each of these 7 chakras contains the entire set of toroids. Yes, thank you so much, because you're keeping me on track. And now I'm going to share another picture that I also have meticulously organized. That's this one right down here. Hold on a second. I think I was ranting about vaccines. Share this picture, which is this. So this is an old glass piece, and this does not show the human anatomy, and this is in many ways simplified in terms of showing its deconstruction. Like, I just kind of like chopped everything up into equal pieces, but that's not totally accurate. But what is accurate is, as Ellie prompted me to remember to tell you, each of these energy systems that is like a whirling and swirling time tornado or vortex contains 7 sub-layers, 7 sub-chakras. And these are like harmonic notes. We have a whole lesson all about harmonics where I'll get more into that. But that's the idea that when one plays one note of the piano, what you're hearing is that primary fundamental note, but then there are subtle undertones, which are actually called overtones, subtle overtones that also exist in there. Let's see if I can do overtone singing. So when I do that, there's a fundamental note that's like the drone, but then you also hear do 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 do, and that is overtones. So each one of these little things that I'm scribbling my cursor over, these are like the overtones, the sub notes, the things that are there by implication of the primary vector or the primary force. So it's just like saying, you drop a pebble into the river, and then there are these ripples that spread outward, and there are sub-ripples that happen. Because we're talking about auditory ripples, waveforms, talking about waveforms. Angel's got a question, then let me keep going on inner and outer. Why are there chakra systems with more than 7 chakras available, such as 9 chakras, 11 chakras? I've heard people combining all their chakras into one single energy field and removing the regular chakra system. Is there a difference between right and left spinning chakras, torsion fields? Thank you. And Patricia says she appreciates my rants. Thank you for bearing my rants. Thank you. Excellent questions, Angel. Thank you so much. So first of all, you're asking a question that is similar to understanding music theory. In music theory, like we can have a note, a chord rather, that has 3 notes, right? And a lot of our simple basic formal music is based on that. But then when we get into jazz, you can have a chord that has 4 notes in it, or how about even 5 notes in it? That sounds even jazzier than the original basic, boring first 3 notes. So the answer is, why do some chakra systems have 9 chakras? Because they're jazzy. They've gone all the way up the scale. They're including other ones. 11 chakras. The answer is you can have an infinite number of chakras dependent upon how you subdivide it, and you can subdivide it into different intervals. So Western music, let's say, has this scale. We're very familiar with this. This will sound normal to you. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? But non-Western music has different interval scale. That's like from the Far East. I will not sing it for you. I'm not prepared to give a music class, and I don't know exactly how to sing with my voice. So yeah, and my piano is tuned for the Western music. So yeah, there's all these different modalities, basically ways of chopping up something that's this big into parts. We can chop it up into equal parts, or we can make some pieces big giant chunks and some pieces little tiny slices. So this is the idea. We are in music, both the Eastern modalities and Western modalities, they're different tunings. They don't necessarily fit and match harmonically, but they're both doing the same thing. They are music, they're structure, they're organizing waveforms. Same thing with this chakra system that I present to you that has 7 subdivisions, one that has 9 subdivisions, one that has 11 subdivisions. They might have been affected or influenced by the culture from which they emerged. However, they are all equal, they are valid, they are organized expressions of waveforms. That's what we're describing here. So the main takeaway is that you have a non-physical energy body, that's like saying we have music, and that music can be subdivided into these accurate waveforms. These are, I call them organs. Just like, you say, my heart is an organ of your body. Your heart is an organ of your body. It's not separate from your body. It's a concentration. It's a thing. All of these chakras, they are concentrations of energy, but they are not separate from your body. They are part of the body. Yeah, good, Jules. Jules, you're clearly a musician. Says chromatic scale, all sharps, flats included, 12 tones including jazz. All this, exactly. Like, please, again, musician theorists who might be watching my video, be kind to me. I'm actually very new to music theory, and I'm not a total expert. I'm just trying to give these as adequate analogies. So yeah, adequate analogies, because this is what we're really doing here. So okay, let me speak more to questions, but let me stay on track, inner and the outer. So now, we talked about just basic cellular biological architecture, a one-celled animal into a multi-celled animal. And now we're going to talk about you as a little person. So you come here as a little person, mostly we come here as little people into, infant little bodies. And for the first year of one's life, mostly we are still connected to the undifferentiated, the numinous, the oceanic, the big giant stuff that's out there. That's the stuff out there. That's also us. But we are connected to it in a way that we do not feel separate from it. And that's during that time that your little fontanelle is still open. And these skull plates have not fused, and one's violet chakra connection to higher dimensional, less dense realms is still incredibly profound and prevalent. And I know that people here in this world have a tendency to condescend to little babies because they're pooping in their diapers. Like, you're so stupid. You don't even know anything. You don't even know how to control your anus and poop comes out of it. Like, you're so unsophisticated. But no! Babies are super sophisticated, but they're really sophisticated at this end of their body, all right? So they don't have it together on the red chakra stuff. Red chakra is literally the ability to control your poops and also your body. Like, think about that. Red represents the basic physicality that we are within, right? Babies have to learn how to eat, drink, and poop. They're not that good at eating either. They have to learn how to swallow. They have to learn to digest. This is why babies throw up all the time. dude, like I'm saying like the most obvious things, but I have to say it in this way. You have to learn how to have a body. You have to learn how to control your arms and legs and muscles. So little babies don't have it together on the layer of red, which is pure physicality, but they have it all together on the layer of violet, which is being tuned into a higher dimensional, less dense realm. So that's the ironic flip-flop that most people experience in infancy. It's totally wise, connected, powerful on a subtle level being that's so vulnerable in the physicality because you got to have someone else bring you food and water and clean up after your poops because you're not able to coordinate to do that type of stuff. And so what happens? What happens is individuation. Let's draw a picture. Go to the whiteboard. Clear this all out. Wait a second. Draw a picture of a baby. Like, here's a little baby, right? And it's kind of like lying on its back in its crib. Right? And like, here's a little crib. For the first year or so of its life, the baby is super wide open up here on violet and super connected to all of this other stuff. But at a certain point, let's say that connection gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And again, there's nothing bad, wrong, or evil about this. These are necessary levels of development, just like the idea of the mycoplasma, which is not necessarily evil, even though Lyme disease is evil mycoplasma, becoming encapsulated and individuated as the cell membrane. That's actually good. That's a step up. Congratulations. You've graduated from goo to cell membrane. Like, that's good. So this process of having the violet light dim while the individuation happens of that little baby is not necessarily bad, wrong, or evil. Like, what's supposed to happen is that you're supposed to, well, ideally what happens is even as you come into the physicality, you know, you maintain this very clearly even while you recognize that you are physical. But I'm saying, like, that's what I don't want to confuse anyone. That's what our intended blueprint was. That's how it was when we were in ancient Atlantis. I don't want you to feel like in coming here like you have somehow failed because you lost this connection as you individuated. I want you to see it, or I would prefer, or I would encourage that you see your journey instead as a necessary stage of development. That individuation is like the creation of that cell membrane, but it's not the end of the journey. And that your motivations as an individuated being have been appropriate. Like, what happens is you become individuated. You say, this is my name. My name is Harry, or my name is John, or my name is whatever. And then that's who I am and that's who I'm not. We develop a sense of identity. And the identity is, I have this epidermis, and everything that's inside of my epidermis is me, and everything that's outside of my epidermis is not me. And little babies explore this concept. Like, I'm gonna like put I'm gonna put my own hand in my mouth. I feel it. It's me. Then like I'm gonna put this in my mouth. Oh, let me go back. Let me mute everybody.
You want me to send it?
It's not working.
No, I said no. You know.
But then little babies jump on something else and they're like, nope, I didn't feel that. That ain't me. And they go through this exploratory process of figuring out me, not me, me, not me. There's nothing wrong with that. That is appropriate, and it's also appropriate in terms of being responsible for your own body. Because if you're like biting into an apple, but you're feeling the apple as you're biting into it, the apple might be like, ow, ow, something's biting me. You have to eat it anyway. This is part of the rules of being here. Something has to die in order for you to be alive. We are not light eaters yet. So yeah, it would be antithetical to your own survival to be able to feel the feelings of all the things that you're eating. So it's really, really important to individuate and say, hey, I'm me and I'm not you and I'm eating you. Like, that is appropriate. That's part of some of the basic lessons. These are basic red chakra foundation lessons. You're allowed to eat stuff to stay alive. You're allowed to be alive. All these different things. Individuation. Self-responsibility. I'm responsible to myself. I'm responsible to what's inside of this epidermis. I need stuff to stay alive. And babies definitely learn this. They say, wah, 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 I'm hungry. Wah, I'm thirsty. Wah, I have a poopy diaper. Babies know how to advocate for themselves, for their own cellular structure to stay alive. That is appropriate. And that's part of this process of individuation. So basically the first year of life goes by and you begin to get language. That's the part that's really not right. We go back to the whiteboard. What's really not okay is what is okay and good and healthy. And what should remain is the process of individuation. What is not okay, good, and not healthy, I'm using yellow, I don't know if you can see it. I'm drawing a yellow line here. You can't even see that. I'm just making a big, giant yellow scribble. That's the implantation of the human mind. So there's two things that happen. One is this natural thing where, we've got like a lessening of the violet crown chakra connection and more of a red chakra connection as you move more into your physicality. However, this implantation of yellow is aberrant, a thing that's not supposed to exist. We're supposed to have a different action at yellow than we currently have. And this is what really closes everyone off. It's the implantation of talking mind. And we download this OS, this operating system, so that we can connect effectively to the other humans that are here and say to them, I have a poopy diaper, or I'm hungry, like, give me a cookie. Like, you learn all of these things because it's pro-survival. However, it is not our actual correct anatomical chakra structure of your body. So again, I'm drawing all of these perfect chakras, but we end up having this crazy, askew, wildly gyrating yellow mind that it's not about individuation, that is disruptor that cuts us off from the divinity or the higher consciousness and the intelligence that we're supposed to have access to. So just reiterating, really, really clear. Diminished contact to higher dimensional, less dense realms and the violet chakra while you focus on the red chakra of how not to poop your pants is appropriate. That is good. You know what it's like in my body? What I really find is that I have to focus on one thing at a time. If I'm like I'm trying to tie my shoes and someone asks me a question, I have to either stop tying my shoes, to listen to what they said, to have it process through all the things in my brain, to finally go to my mouth so I can finally respond and say something, or finish tying my shoes and then say to them hey, can you say that thing again to me because I couldn't do two things at once. That's just the way that I work. And I think that that there's something similar going on in the sense of that there's a disruption that is happening where we're supposed to be able to be in our true mind even while we're in our physical body, but that we have this constant talking thing that is making our attention go askew, that we're constantly focusing our attention on something that we're not supposed to have to focus our attention on. And that identity, that intellect also affects our identity, even in the sense of humanity defining itself as we are the thinking animal. We don't recognize the thought structure, or regular human earth science, earth surface science, does not presently recognize the thought structure of a being like a bird. Look at a bird, you think, bird, you're so stupid, just fly around and poop on cars all the time. No, birds are incredibly intelligent, and they hear with their ears, but they also hear with all of their feathers. So they're hearing things that you can't even imagine what their world is like, and you're standing there thinking they are stupid. They are not stupid. And even something like a mammal like a dolphin that has more convoluted surface area than humans do. If you compare human brain, dolphin brain, which one is wrinklier? And that matters because you want wrinkles, not on your face. You want wrinkles on your brain, because the more wrinkles you have on your brain, then the more area you have for this neurological activity that we call thought. So dolphins actually have more convoluted surface area on their brains than humans do. But humans condescend, they're like, they ain't thinking. They're just swimming around like stupid animals and eating fish. Oh my God. I know the people in this class understand, but many, many humans do. I'm rolling my eyes at those non-understanding humans who don't understand that, yes, dolphins do have thought. So wait, let me just drink a little bit here. Sharon asked a good question. Let me just respond to this in real time. Says, is that why nonstop talkers are so stressful? Overstimulation of the yellow chakra? I think there is something to that. I think that not only constant verbal expression is very exhausting, but constant thinking, constant mental expression. That is like the hamster is always running on its wheel and you never get a break, and most people live their entire life in that way. So last week we did a whole lesson all about mindfulness and meditation. How do you stop the hamster from running on its wheel? And for me, the answer is painting. I also do a lot of active cardio type of stuff, like walking with my dog, or I do music stuff. Basically, when I'm active and when I'm in my groove, then I find that quiets my mind and I'm able to access my true mind. So this is all about true mind. So our false mind tells us you're a human, you're elevated above all the other animals, and it also gives you a whole story about yourself. My name is Joe Smith, and I was born on this day, and I was born in a log cabin, and here's my dog Trigger, and here's my favorite sweater, and here's my coonskin cap, or it's like identity. You develop this sense of identity. I'm this, and I ain't that. That's the important thing. And that sense of individuation is similar to the tough guy cell that says, hey, I'm looking out for number one. That you say, my name is Joe Smith, and all I have to care about is me in my house. All I have to care about is hunting up my own dinner. I don't gotta care about none of you. And that might be an appropriate level of development, an appropriate value system for that level of development. But it does not translate when you get to higher levels of development, when you recognize that if you want to be part of a multicellular system or an actual community or an actual society, that you do have to care more about other people. It is not just about hunting up your own dinner. Now it becomes about living in community, because you want to create a larger, more complex structure than can be achieved just as a one-celled animal. And if you want to do that, it means you have to mitigate your own agenda, your own inner desires. Like this person over here that wants to vacuum the crumbs of the world needs to mitigate her inner desires in order to happily go places with me in town, because otherwise she's not allowed to do that, right? So yeah, you got to mitigate. And that's also like being in a band. You can't be like, I want to play totally loud on my own beat and I don't care about any of you. You can't do that. You have to be like, first of all, play at a volume that's appropriate to the rest of the context and play along with the rest of the band, because then you're actually adding to things. So inner and outer. So inner and outer, we're talking about a definition of self that is heavily influenced by mind and heavily influenced by biology, because this has everything to do with the type of being that we are. We are not cloud beings. I'm making really obvious statements here today. But we have like an actual edge. We have an actual surface. You know, if you look at the planet Jupiter, it's called a gas giant. It's made out of gas. There's no solid stuff there. There's no, like if say, fly to the surface of Jupiter. I want you guys to get in your rocket ship and go land on the surface of Jupiter. There is no land there. There's no land. There's just cloud. It's just a big, fat, freaking cloud, okay? And who lives in a cloud? Cloud beings. Cloud beings live in a cloud. So they don't have bodies like us. They are not like, oh, individuated with an edge like this, even though there might be individuation. Here's one cloud and here's another cloud, but maybe they kind of mush together. There are not clear boundaries in the same way that there are very clear boundaries in the biological organism that we currently inhabit with our consciousness. That's called human, mammal, biological structure. So everything about our biological structure has influenced our sense of my inside versus my outside. And then we have also this human overlay of intellect that influences our inside versus our outside. But flying rainbow lasagna, we are finally getting to the meat and potatoes here. Transforms or re-educates or reinforms, redefines inside versus outside. So we already did that level 2 presentation about duality, I1 versus I2, and creating depth and all these innate aspects of our perception that are dualistic. It's just very similar. The idea that you have this individuated sense of self and you are constantly comparing yourself to others and yourself to your environment. I am different from other people. I am different from my environment. I'm myself and I'm advocating for myself and I'm hungry and I have a poopy diaper and I'm going to need this changed right now. Like that is what we do when we're here. But then at a certain point, you can begin to render that barrier inconsequential. It's a moot point, like if I were using legal language. So if we say in my screen is split down the middle and this is a membrane, like a cell membrane or like your epidermis. And what we begin to do with flying rainbow lasagna is we make the singularity jump across the membrane. And as it's jumping back and forth, it creates this waveform as, you know, like the wake behind it. And that jumping back and forth across the membrane renders that membrane permeable. So now this has to do with your inner world and your outer world. So we're talking about what science describes as like your world of dreams, consciousness, possibilities, emotions. It's an intangible world. That's your inner world. It's like we can't take a picture of it. We can't measure it with a tape measure. We can't say how much it weighs. It's not tangible. And then we can look at the outer world, which science loves because it's so easy. Like I can weigh stuff. Like this weighs, you know, whatever, 1.6 ounces. This is 12 inches long. You know, this is the color purple. Like, and we can even agree. We can have consensual reality. Be like, everybody agrees. This purple. This is purple. This is definitely purple. We all agree on that. So there's this huge intellectual bifurcation. The membrane going down your screen is an intellectual bifurcation of the definition of self versus the definition of context. And this is the solution or the antidote or the enzyme that transforms or allows you to supersede that intellectual bifurcation of your inner versus your outer. So this inner versus outer, it is exemplified in the philosophy that would be defined as objective materialism. That says we got 5 senses, these are 5 material senses, and we define the world, reality, based on what we perceive with our 5 senses, and it's objective. Everybody can agree, that's purple, that's purple, we all agree, it's purple. We all agree, it's 5 inches, it's 5 inches, it's all 1.6 ounces, we all agree. All of these measurements we all agree on. It's not like, oh, well, this guy measured 1.6 ounces, but then this guy measured it, and it was 5 pounds. Like these discrepancies don't exist. But science does it. This objective, not science. They're not the same. The objective materialist viewpoint doesn't even try to approach the inner world. The inner world is just seen as a place of poetry. Like, we can't define it. It's just loosey-goosey. We can't quite get a grasp on it. And that's what I was saying in terms of the homeworks and being able to give everybody something to sink your visual teeth into, to actually see what is this thing that we're talking about? What is this invisible structure that we're talking about, because we're experiencing it and we experience the ramifications of it. What exactly is it? So your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and your desires actually have a structure, and they actually have a shape, and they're not just some invisible, unstructured stuff that floats around like soup. There's actually form. It's formal. There's form to it, just like music can be expressed as formalism. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Patricia's showing me a sketch that she's doing from what I'm talking about. Very interesting. Thank you for that. Okay. Oh, Mini Man, I will get to your question. Thank you. I just want to stay on track with what I'm talking about, inner and outer. So how do we transcend this intellectualism that tells you that your inner thoughts and feelings don't affect your outer reality? One stage on that inner development journey is to understand quantum physics. That's why I made a distinction between the objective materialist viewpoint and science, because science came out of like the 1600s, sorry, with Sir Isaac Newton, who was all about the physical world. Physical world is focused on the physical world. That's not focused on the non-physical world of supernatural spirituality and witches and stuff like that, because there was the Inquisition. He was still dealing with the Inquisition. Yeah, and they would like blame witches for the plague and stuff like that. I'm very, very loosely hyperbolizing there. But you understand what I'm talking about. So the whole idea of objective materialism was it was a step up from superstition and things that could not be proven. But then about 400 or 500 years later, in the early 1900s, the quantum scientists came along, and they were more sophisticated than the mere objective materialist physicality physicists. These are higher level physicists. They don't just describe what we sense with our 5 senses. They started to understand that there's a realm that is beyond what we can sense with our 5 senses. And I talked with this one cool mathematician one time. His name is Dr. Gates, and he's working with these adinkras that show math as vectors and forces and shapes and polygons. And yeah, he recognized that math can be like a type of ESP. An extrasensory perception, a thing that allows scientists to explore realms that they could not explore with their physical senses. So a lot of the quantum physicists did their exploration through the mechanics of higher dimensional math, like that's some sophisticated math, not just regular arithmetic. And they started to understand and prove and demonstrate that your observership or your inner world, your consciousness, does affect your outer world. So that's the beginning of this little membrane starting to be like maybe a little bit porous, like maybe a little bit, or maybe getting thinner, maybe a little bit easier for something to get through. That planted a seed, and that was transformative for people in the early 1900s. And now at this point, over 100 years later, that concept has been internalized, and people take it with a great deal of facility. Just like people now take the idea of perspective with a great deal of facility. You look through a screen, not at it like it's a flat object. You look through it like it's a window. You understand that. Everybody understands, and this is definitely a huge catchphrase, quantum stuff. Quantum, this is now something that is like cool and pop culture and normal. It's not just for fancy folks, not just for guys in lab coats that are, PhDs or something like that. Quantum reality, the idea of observership, the idea that your consciousness affects the world around you. And that's now taken, as I said, with a great deal of facility in this world. But what I want you to do is take another step up is to fly in rainbow lasagna, to become a virtuoso. Not merely to say, well, you know, I have ovens in front of my eyes that are cooking the raw dough of reality into physicality, but like, it ain't my fault if I burn these cookies like that, not fault, but like, yeah, like you're responsible. You're making burnt cookies with the ovens in front of your eyes. You're making burnt cookies with your own observership. You're making burnt cookies, and the burnt cookies can even be the expression of health and vitality, or lack thereof, disease and in decrepitude in your physical body. You're making your body with your mind. And so here is what we're doing. Here's the integument that I'm giving to you, the nourishment that I'm giving to you as to how to render this membrane permeable inside versus outside. So yeah, because there's the mind-body connection that science also recognizes. If you're a heavy objective materialist, it can be hard to break through. It can be hard to break through and to understand that your mind is absolutely affecting reality. And even if you're not a heavy objective materialist, we have this rationalist programming that can also make it difficult. I myself am not heavily indoctrinated with science and objective materialism, and I didn't think that I had that much to break through, but I do. Here's a brief anecdote about manifestation and convincing myself. I went to Mount Shasta over 4 years ago, went on my own personal little mission. You know, I went there like to have magical things happen. And I drove up, like partway up the mountain, and it was April, but it was still snowing up there. It was cold, and I was not prepared for cold and snow. And I had like all my layers on, everything that I could have on. I was outside of my car, and I had my giant crystal ball with me. I'm going to do something magical. And I'm like shivering. I'm so cold. I'm like, okay, I can't do anything magical. I'm too cold. We're just going to get back in the car. I got back in the car. I'm like, I'm still too cold to do magical stuff. So I'm like, let me just press this button and make the window go up. So I press the button, the window goes up. And then I looked and I saw that there were no keys in the ignition. So what had happened? What happened was I had to fool my rational mind, because my rational mind tells me, hey, technically that's not allowed. Technically that's not upholding the rules of reality. Technically you can't just think that the window has the power to be able to go up. You actually have to have the physical key in there. You actually have to turn it like this. So that experience was just one little, like a blip, like one little example that gave to my mind, like, oh yeah, actually under the right circumstances, if you do this and you do this and you do this, you actually can do things that would be defined as impossible according to the rules of physicality. And that's the world that we are moving into. The world of flying rainbow lasagna is a world of matter that responds directly to thought. There's no long mechanical process. Like first I thought a thought, and then it took this long to tumble out, and then finally came out in reality 5 years later over here. No long laborious tumbling process. Instantaneous. Instantaneous. You think a thought and it actually happens. So you can also ask, what was the magical thing that happened on Mount Shasta? Like, how can you do that? Why don't I just drive around now with no keys in my car? Because I know I can do this, right? These are good questions to ask. I want you to ask these questions. So the answer is Mount Shasta is a freaking power center. It's like a chakra on your body. It's a very, very powerful place. It's also like a microphone. You know, I have my microphone over here. So let's say, I'm sorry, I don't want to make it too loud for you. Right now I'm speaking. You can hear me very, very easily. I'm right in front of the microphone. What if I got up from my chair right now and I went out my door and I walked all the way like down to the park? Park is like whatever, like half a mile away. What if I walked all the way down there and I gave an impassioned speech? Would you hear me? No. Is it because my speech wasn't impassioned enough, or I'm not good enough? No, because I wasn't in front of the freaking microphone, okay? If you want the cosmos to hear you, you have to be in front of the freaking microphone, and that's like being on a power center. So these power centers are like special places in the world, and this is why they get kind of fought over or co-opted. Sometimes there's evil beings that might be like, we're going to build a military installation here, or like, we're going to put a fence around here, like you can't come here for whatever reason. So yeah, everybody, it's like an oasis of energy. All of the animals come to the oasis of energy. The fluffy bunnies and the mean alligators, like they all want the energy. So if there's a power center, that's a microphone to the cosmos, everybody wants time on the mic. Everybody wants to sing at the karaoke. So that's it. So it's a challenge sometimes to be able to get physical access to these power centers. So part of it is being in front of the microphone of the cosmos to make your requests and everything like that. And then part of it is also being a good singer. All right. So it's two things. So you have to have the ability, you have to have the song inside of you, but then the microphone matters a lot, where your location of where you're asking your song, singing your song, and then timing, music. Timing is everything. We're talking about a beat. So the way that things worked with that little event, with that little key in the light, it just worked. It just worked. It wasn't planned. It was innovated in the moment, and the events happened in the right moment. And so synchronicities are a good sign, like that you're in tune with the great conductor when you're getting all these synchronicities. I also think you can feel it inside. So wait, inner versus outer. We're making a new form of matter, and that matter I jokingly want to call spatter. But spatter sounds like something like that's like a serial killer type of thing, like blood has spattered somewhere. So that's why I haven't called it spatter, but maybe I should just do it and we'll just redefine what it is, because people tell me flying rainbow lasagna is like the most bizarre noun that they've ever heard, and I don't think that that is that bizarre. So we'll say, when you flying rainbow lasagna, what you do is you combine the world of spirit and matter. Spirit we can also define as pure energy. Spirit we can also define as pure consciousness. So what resides inside of you, inside of your epidermis, inside of your cell membrane? It's your consciousness, it's your energy, it's your feelings, it's your emotions, it's your passion and your dreams, it's your creative life force energy, which includes your sexuality, your sacred divine sexuality, not your co-opted, manipulated, socially acceptable sexuality. We're talking about like your real connection to divinity and to creativity, all that stuff that resides within, and combining all of that stuff with all the things that are out here, quote unquote, out here, hard-edged objects, quote unquote, other people, other organisms, dogs, microbes, all these things, events. Events, you say events are external to me. Events are not external to you, especially when you begin to flying rainbow lasagna. So that's what this activity is. I'm getting to the meat and potatoes of this class. Like first of all, we don't just sit here talking about stupid ideations and then be like, okay, now everybody go home and just like think with your mind. No, we actually do stuff. This is embodiment. This is an action. This is a verb. When you do the verb of the flying rainbow lasagna dance, what are you doing? Combining your inner with your outer. You're literally dancing with your chakras. You're combining your inner divinity, creativity, feelings, thoughts, passions, everything that is non-measurable, non-weighable inside of you with your outer reality. That is made of molecular forms and atoms and waveforms and forces and numbers and digital equipment and other people and other cellular structures and other DNA. We'll get into the ethics of affecting other people in level 2, because that's why these two lessons are complementary to one another. But you begin to jump across that membrane so that what's inside of you becomes outside of you. And then what's outside of you becomes back inside of you. And you begin to develop this rapport with reality that is like being in the cosmic band. I'll go through your questions. That's the crux of what this is. And if anybody doesn't understand, like what I give here in the live lectures, as much nutrition as I can pack into an hour, but then there's also the recorded lessons. So everything that I'm saying here is in response to the recorded lessons that I have that are unteachable. So I just want to make sure that you understand, like I'm not holding out on you in any way, but there's a limit to what I can put into this particular, hours worth of presentations. Now, let me scroll. I'm squinting. I'm scrolling. I'm reading. Okay. Oh, and you know what? Back to Angel. You had asked me about chakra removal. Let's do it. Chakra removal, because I don't want to gloss over anything. So I understand that people feel that they are limited or having problems with their chakras because, again, wibbly wobbly chakras, not being controlled through time, not being able to truly use your solar plexus chakra for your true mind. It's implanted with a harmful OS. I understand all of your agitations, but I don't think that the solution is amputation. I don't think that you should say, like, something, my left hand just does not play that well on the piano. Like, I wish it was faster, so I'm just going to amputate it. That is not how you get to be a better player, okay? So what I advocate is a retuning of your instrument instead of amputation. And I'll also tell you about my personal experience of this, though. Chakra removal. Let's say if there's a problem with your heart and your blood vessels, be like, let's remove the blood vessels and just let all of the blood kind of pool throughout your whole body in an big, giant, undifferentiated mess. Like that would not bring health. That would bring death, because you can't go backwards. Like that's like going backwards towards mycoplasma, going away from the cell membrane, that we have a multicellular structure and we have energy pathways. This is the way the energy flows. This is the way that blood flows. Blood is not supposed to just pool. You're not supposed to be just a big bag of undifferentiated blood. You're supposed to have actual flow of energy. That's what chakras are. They are like blood vessels that bring time and nutrients and consciousness throughout the larger metabolism of time. So no, you're not just supposed to have a big giant pool of undifferentiated goo or a big giant bag of blood or a big giant pile of time. You're actually supposed to have structured, organized time. And if you think you're just going to remove your chakras and just have a big pile of goo around you and you're going to survive, that's not going to happen because it's playing horrible music like that. However, in my own experience, I have experienced what it feels like to have disrupted chakras. I'm here in this genetic body. I understand that there are disturbances on the level of ego, intellect, that also cause disturbances at the level of your guts, feelings, and emotions. You could translate that loosely to wrong thoughts create wrong feelings, but it's not wrong. It's just destabilized. Destabilized crazy thoughts create destabilized crazy feelings, but there's challenges at the level of communication, because language is down here, language is also up here. There's challenges at the level of Christhood, religious programming, and there's challenges getting this thing back online too. There's challenges all up and down the whole body. And so what I found, because I was being frustrated in terms of having too many chakra intermediaries between myself and the divine, what these chakras are layers of time, chakras are layers of your own body, chakras are layers of consciousness, but they all connect you to divinity. And really what I started to say was like, if these chakras are misbehaving, I really just want to be connected to divinity. So I'm just going to flying rainbow lasagna and jump over any of these faulty chakras and go directly to divinity. So I've been doing that for a while. And again, this is different than chakra removal. This is just kind of like saying like, they're doing construction on Main Street, skip Main Street. Take Creek Road instead, and you will get a much faster, more pleasant journey. So that's what I've been doing. But my intention is to fix Main Street. They've got potholes. That's why Main Street is closed down. The yellow chakra, you're not supposed to get rid of it. You're supposed to have yellow in the rainbow, but it's supposed to be behaving properly. So again, I'm not an advocate for chakra removal. I don't think that being a bag of blood is good. I think that that is not moving in evolution, that is moving backwards in de-evolution. And I think that if you have problems with your chakras, it is appropriate to do a bypass from Main Street while you rehab Main Street, while you make Main Street better. So thank you. And Angel, you're asking wonderful questions. Thank you very much. So now I'm moving through. In essence, the ancient Chinese emperors were eating regularly mercury to extend their consciousness. That is fascinating. Do I think that they connected to a dark channel doorway portal? Heck yeah. Funny enough, they lived very long time, longer than normal during these times. So what's my opinion about the mercury intake procedure and what did it lead to them? And their creative history was very violent, that's for sure. So, you know, I think that mercury does create an opening, a neurological opening, or a changing of your antenna to tune into very unwholesome, very malevolent presences. And you might live, well, I don't know about like extending their life or living longer, but I'm sure that they lived horribly. Like it poisons the body, it creates an incredible amount of neurological pain and insanity. Like it is not a comfortable, good, healthy, vital substance in any way. So I think that a lot of ancient cultures, and maybe even stories that are told mythologically, were, you know, rulers who used some kind of magic elixir, some kind of augmentation, some kind of enhancement, magical thing that enhances. But usually they're cautionary tales. It's usually not something that you would want to do. So I would say, please stay away from mercury. Please don't drink mercury. Please don't get the vaccines. Sharon says, oh, wait, we got there. Jules. Says, has happened more and more to me since internet, yellow mind overactivation, and this class is helping her. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, you know, something I said on my Facebook intro, that the reason why I go on social media is specifically to share this information, to connect with humanity in a positive way. But I really don't go to social media for the usual motivations of why people go there. It's like for ego purposes, for self-aggrandizement, for creating drama, for fighting with people, for pissing and pooping all over people. Like none of that seems healthy. And also I find after I finish up conversations there, I'm still processing, that it takes a little bit of time. Like, oh, this person said this, and then I said this, and this makes me think this. It takes time. And so if you're eating sandwiches from people that are contaminated, like you're getting some of that contamination inside of you, and then your tummy has to deal with all of that contamination. So yeah, it's the mind. And I'll say this again, the mind is not adequate to heal the mind. It's like the idea of, you know, whatever, we're going to talk it out and we're just going to talk, and then somehow all this talking will somehow fix things. I don't feel that way. And that's why, although I come and I speak here, I use talking here in order to try to share ideas. I'm really much more about being active, being a doer, making artwork, doing this dance, making music, singing, using these vibrations, because I think talking is so hacked. It's a flawed human mind. I don't think that the flawed human mind can make a talking thing that heals the flaws of the mind. Justin says, hi, Aurora. How would you navigate this upcoming timeline split in these coming weeks? Is that for real? Thank you. Yeah, the timeline split is totally for real. So last week I was talking about galactic incoming super waves. I feel them every day. I feel them very spontaneously. I felt them profoundly this morning. They have affected my behavior and my little dog's behavior. Usually she becomes very chipper, joyful, active, jumps up, wants to play and things like that. But I'm also noticing that sometimes during those moments, like she gets very, very peaceful. And like usually we do a very long walk in the morning and we go visit little friends and shops around town, especially before we have to settle down and do something like a video conference like this today. This morning, one of those waves came in and she didn't want to do her usual walk around town. And she was feeling happy and good. This wasn't about a tummy ache or something like that. No, Cheeky, we did a short walk this morning and then came back. And I wanted to focus my creative energy on music and recording. And she like lay down quietly and, whatever, like chewed on a chew toy. So it's like, why am I sharing this little anecdotal story of my morning? Because I think that, first of all, there's no prediction. Like these waves will always make you feel this way. It is more like being exactly in alignment with what you need to be doing in each moment. So over the past month, and these contractions have been getting closer. And today is this portal day, the August 8th and Lionsgate portal. Lots of people are talking about this. Basically this morning, I worked on some music projects that I had been gestating and thinking about for a very long time. And today I actually set up the equipment and started to do the recordings. And I think that you're asking me the best way to navigate these timelines, I would recommend that everybody stays as much as possible in true integrity, doing what you actually want to be doing in every moment. So that also means there are things that are fun to do. Like we might go for a walk later to the park, but we just didn't do it this morning because at that moment, what I really wanted to be doing was singing. And I think sometimes maybe she's accommodating me, like maybe she can sense what's going on. Like, okay, we did a cool walk. Now let's go home. You can do your music. Like I'm kind of sensing something like that. Be in your groove, uncompromisingly. And something like, I got to wash my dishes too. I have to do basic chores and things like that. The dishes will get done. Like this is how don't think like, oh my God, people are going to think you have horrible housekeeping skills because you're not doing your chores. The chores will get done. The basic boring stuff will get done. But when you feel those moments of uplift, creativity, inspiration, it might be time to sit quietly in the garden. Like just sit and look at things for 5 minutes. Or just exist. Oh, one of them came in a couple of days ago when I was walking with my dog through town. And we just hugged a tree. She was hunting a gopher, looking in a field, and I just stood there hugging a tree. Like you can do this even during your day in an urban environment because it's happening just spontaneously in weird places. So remain as much as possible in your personal integrity. And so again, doing dishes, it's not like that's an evil action. It's just not what I really love to do. So this morning I said, no, screw the dishes. Let's do this creative project, and then we'll do the dishes at a moment when we don't feel so much intensity. So yeah, be in integrity, focus on the projects that really matter to you, focus on the conversations that really matter to you. There can be very nice people that just are not exactly who you need to be talking to at that moment because you might need to be thinking something else or doing something else or going in a different direction. Honor that, and also don't be insulted if someone else is like, no time to talk, gotta go, like bam, because like you ain't the person they need to be talking to right now. So I'm seeing all of this as like a very specific music that we are supposed to be making with our thoughts, feelings, and actions in the time field at each moment. Play your music uncompromisingly. Internally, your heart is telling you exactly what you need to be doing at each moment, and do that uncompromisingly. And so that's also why I don't tell other people what to do, and I'm totally sensitive. I'm like, not a good time to talk, bam, like go do your work. And also like sometimes I have to be that way, bam, I don't have time to talk, I literally have to do this right now, I have to do this, I have to prioritize this activity. I don't know how to think of a good analogy of it, but I don't know, because it's almost like the sense of like something, if you're on vacation, if there's a very special moment or a very special opportunity, like grasp hold of that opportunity, use that moment and the feelings of that moment as much as you possibly can, because that can carry you forward. And in these moments, sometimes my laundry list of chorefulness comes up because that's my vulnerability. My kryptonite is my responsibility. So I'm like, oh wait, but I have to do this chore, and then I have to do this, and then I have to do this. Those are the things that I'm ascending, and then those choreful thoughts bring me down. love yourself, whatever are your things that bring you down, don't worry about it. And I tell myself, the laundry will get done, the dishes will get done, don't worry about it. So Miniman says, how am I supposed to handle the situation of this world when a child gets murdered by being pushed in front of a train, and a man gets slaughtered with a samurai sword in my hometown by migrants, and my country's being slowly getting destroyed? This reality is stressful and beyond annoying. What can I do exactly? How can FRL help me specifically? Thanks. So I understand if you are challenged by what is happening in your social context right now. The solution is never your own personal vigilante violence, even though I understand that people might be wanting to do something like that. The solution is for you to become a virtuoso of rewriting the script of reality. So I'm not here to say that it's not real. Like if someone was murdered, that's a very real event in reality that was written by a scriptwriter that said, let's make this thing happen in a person's life. Or if a person develops cancer or has a profound car accident, these are all events written into the script of your life. And the script of your life is not written words on a page, on a notebook. It's the shape of your chakras. Events are the shape of your chakras. And so too are the events of Earth, shape of timelines. If you would like to heal, fix, and ameliorate the situation here, learn to directly transform timelines. I have earned my muscles by literally touching timelines, changing them, moving them around, smushing them together, pulling them apart. This is my exercise program of what I do every day. And don't tell me I ain't good enough because we still got problems in the world. Yes, we still have problems in the world. You don't paint a painting in one day. So that's the whole reason why I invite other people to also learn to be virtuosos. Earn your muscles. I want you to push and pull the levers of reality. And this is also akin to flying your personal starship. You don't change the world by holding a gun to somebody else's head and saying, hey, you be different. You change the world by literally reweaving time with your own connection to time. That's it. That's the solution. And it's a virtuoso. It doesn't happen overnight. Like you got to figure it the F on out. It takes time. You got to practice. Patricia says it's very rough pick, but I think I'm getting to that. She was showing me your picture. Thank you. Daniela says, hi. I'm in the last class. You mentioned that violet and red chakras are aligned opposite of the others. If I remember correctly, these two emanate up and down respectively. If that is the case, is FRL the process of aligning the other chakras to the same direction? I'm thinking of our previous homeworks and how all the chakra circles are nested in that. Really good question. I would say that Flying Rainbow Lasagna is the process of taking this shape and taking this inner structure and making it be able to bounce around at almost any angle that you want it to. So now that I understand Earth culture a little bit more, I think that if I had to describe this, I might call it chakra dancing, even though I cringe at those two words together because I could see this whole kind of like new age fluff ball thing, like chakra dancing, you know, like it sounds like almost like nothingness. It sounds like ridiculousness, like fuzzy, fizzy drinks. Like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. But the idea of taking the forms of your non-physical body and making them move like limbs. That's what dance is. We're intentionally moving limbs for self-expression. And that's what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. It is intentional movement of your higher dimensional limbs for self-expression. And that self-expression can include your own personal healing and vitality and the healing and amelioration of the world around you, which includes no longer having people killed with samurai swords because of social friction and things like that. Patricia says higher laws are trumping lower ones. That is absolutely truthful. So the higher cosmic laws, and I just did a whole recording about this, are hierarchically more powerful than lower laws of what we would consider mere, human ideation, what humans assert as laws. Oh, and someone asked me, what's a good example of that? Higher cosmic law or universal law, something is legal, but something that is not legal on human level. And I think cannabis is a good example of that, that this is something that is a plant, that is like a nutritional substance that has been demonized and outlawed and become socially subverted and suppressed in this world, but that it's the laws of humans are saying you're not allowed to do this, there are severe consequences, but the laws of the cosmos would say there's not only no consequences, it's a benevolent, positive thing. So we live in an inverted world. Jeffrey says, are there power centers in New England, or rather are they concentrated in certain parts of the world? There's power centers everywhere, and there's larger chakras and subnodes. Just like on your body, you have the main chakras, but then you also have subnodes, and something's going on here, and something's going on here, like all these different little things. So let me tell you, I used to live in Woodstock, New York, which is over in New England. And it's, I don't know if it's technically in New England or the Mid-Atlantic states, whatever. It has a mountain right in town that is called Overlook Mountain. And that was where it's a portal, it's an energy center, and that is where I received my name, Aurora. I had many profound spiritual experiences there on that mountain. That was the place of manifestation that I was used to as the place where I walked into this body, like, the place where I was initially, imprinted upon in this world. And so I got used to the amount of energy center there. But it's also a malfunctioning energy center. Just like you can have awry, askew chakras, you can have energy centers on the planet's surface that ain't functioning properly. So Overlook Mountain in Woodstock, New York is one of those. So that's why I didn't stay there, because the energy wasn't functioning correctly. First time I went to Mount Shasta, I was like, oh, first of all, this is how it's supposed to function. And second of all, Overlook Mountain is like my little vortex. The play school set. It's not like a real pots and pans set. It's just a little play school set. It's a smaller vortex for smaller things. It's the mini cupcake oven. If you're a little kid, you get that little mini cupcake oven. You can make these little tiny cupcakes like this big. You cannot do a whole turkey roast in your My Little Cupcake Oven. So there are smaller energy centers and smaller power centers. And you might even have one in your backyard. You might be like, oh yeah, this creek is a special place. And I sit here and I have special feelings. Patricia's totally agreeing with me on this. Yeah, you might have your own special places. So that's like saying, like here, like this place on my skin is a special place. It's not exactly my heart. It's not exactly my third eye, but this is a special place too. And you can sit there, like there are definitely sub-chakras, sub-nodes, and other special places just than the big places too. Patricia, as above and so below, I'm agreeing with you there. Miniman says, where are these power centers? Are they only in the outside world or also inside of me? What's the right song? Your power centers are inside of you, and you are a miniature microcosm of Earth, of the planet. And just like your body might need healing and retuning, the planet needs healing and retuning. A lot of these power centers have been co-opted, and churches have been built there, and that's a co-opting of this. So I have a whole teaching all about the death cult religions. Not disrespectful to your religion if you are a Christian or a believer or anything like that, and I wear a cross, and I always make this distinction. I'm not here to poop all over your religion in any way, but I'm talking about Christ consciousness, and what I call the death cult is a co-opting of real Christ consciousness and this teaching of the necessity of death, the necessity of suffering, the focus on the crucifixion, the focus on the suffering, and all of that is like putting an unhealthy program into the chakras of the body of the planet. So a lot of these power centers were natural springs, wells, things that involved water. They were places of pagan worship, and they're also similar to like my belly button. Like imagine all the organisms that live in my belly button gathering around like a big giant well and being like, we love you, belly button, we love you. Like they're honoring the body upon which they live. But then imagine if some other thing comes along, like builds a building there and says like, no, everybody's gonna die, you're all horrible sinners. Like that's a different energy going on also. A lot of these places are energy centers. And what's the right song? The answer to that is determined by your own divine connection. Oh yeah, so Ines, I'm moving into telling you the actual dancing procedure. So we're only on lesson 6 today. I'm not holding out on you, but we still got to learn Merkaba for real and sun gazing before you are ready for flying rainbow lasagna. So all of this is cumulative. I know you want to jump directly to the fun, cool electric guitar solo in this music, but first we have to learn music theory. Tap, tap, tap. Like we have to learn. This is a C. Let's buckle down, everyone. No, but it's cumulative, and we'll get there. So be patient. Ellie, would the human template have a yellow chakra if the invaders hadn't implanted the hijack, the further meddling hadn't taken place? Excellent question, thank you. She says, and if so, what function music would this original yellow level play? Thank you, I love you. Thank you for this great question. Yes, just like the spectrum of light that emits from our star would still contain yellow, our bodies that are tiny fractal microcosms of our beautiful star would still contain yellow here, but it would behave differently. So we have this hijacked, hacked yellow chakra structure that has a lot of wibbly wobbliness to it and a lot of other stuff. Our yellow intellectual daily waking consciousness would act differently, be shaped differently, and have a different effect on our totality energy system. So that might mean that we have like 92% less yellow in every painting. When I make my paintings very formally, they end up having a lot of yellow, and to my eyes, it's always like too much yellow. Yellow is very bright. It really jumps out at you. And you might want to like turn that yellow down. We don't need to have all 100% yellow in this painting. We can have 92% yellow. Like you could think of yellow as like hot mustard on your sandwich. Like you don't need to have like a gallon of mustard on your sandwich. Like you can have like one little squirt, and that is the right amount. So during our day, we have a gallon of mustard dumped on our head every day. I'm talking all the time. I'm thinking all the time. My inner hamster is running on its wheel, thought all the time, that you're exhausted and you fall into bed. And you have to do whatever, hamster running on the wheel while you're sleeping at night. No, it's different, clearly. Yellow is like the color of your daily waking consciousness. That's why the hamster doesn't run on the wheel. Similarly, when you're asleep at night, you go into your sleeping consciousness. So the human daily waking intellect, our ego consciousness, is like this yellow level. And imagine if we only had 1 or 2 verbalized egotistical thoughts a day. That's like 1 little squirt of hot mustard on your sandwich. That's exactly the right amount of hot mustard. Ego is also your personal, I've learned a lot about having an ego. It is a protective mechanism. When I first came here, I literally didn't have an ego. I didn't have the name Aurora. I didn't have a structured self. I didn't have the capacity to say, here's my story, here's where I came from, here's who I am, here's what I'm all about, here's my home address, here's my identification. I didn't have any of that stuff. And so it was very challenging for people to even interface with me, because ego is an interface. It's like the way that a plug plugs into the electrical system to get electricity. You have to be shaped the right way. You have to look the right way. You have to fit in. So part of this is all about that ego structure and human intellectualism fitting in and conforming with human society. But if we all were not infested with these distortions of language and distortions of human operating system, our ego, we would define ourselves differently, we would perceive ourselves differently, we would interface differently, and we would do a whole freaking lot more communication doing the higher faculties and a lot less on this level. So let's talk about dolphins, but I have to move on to level 2. I'm already half an hour over. But let me just say dolphins really, really fast. The way that they do, they're hemispheres, right hemisphere, left hemisphere, awake, asleep, awake, asleep. They are always half awake and half asleep. They shift back and forth. Their daily waking consciousness is more dreamlike. And our human daily waking consciousness is hardly dreamlike at all. Everything is, this is reality. Reality is objective materialism. You don't see fairies and unicorns. You're not experiencing magical stuff. Magical stuff happens when you go to sleep at night and you dream, right? A very clear bifurcation, awake versus asleep. Your brain is either awake or your brain is asleep. And with dolphins, we have awake, asleep, awake, asleep, awake, asleep. They live in a waking dream. And that, I think, is much more akin to the way that our mind, our true mind, this is our true mind, the way that this yellow level of daily waking consciousness is supposed to function. I think that it's supposed to have a different tonality, a different experience completely. You're supposed to be able to turn it off or pause it. And you're supposed to be able to oscillate it back and forth with a different, more dreamlike or intuitive or numinous experience. And Sandy says, if the top and bottom 2 chakras are nested, what are the dimensions we need so that the other 5 nest in each other as needed? I don't know how to answer your question. I'm confused. I don't know how to answer your question. Jules says, is aware ego like a healthy cell membrane and ephemeral, a way of hopping in and out? Dolphins like Jana's state of meditation. Thank you, Jules. That's perfect. An aware ego or a healthy ego is, like you say, a healthy cell membrane that allows in the information, nutrition, and stuff that you want to allow in, but does not allow in pathogens and poop. And of course, metabolizes the poop outward that you don't want to stay inside the end products of metabolism. So just like dolphins, awake, asleep, inner, outer. That's what, because what you understand when you're on this higher dimensional ego level is that everyone else is a projection of you. And if someone else comes to you with a thought or an idea, it's actually yourself coming to you with a thought or an idea from the externalized direction of someone else. It's not actually other, it's actually you. So if I'm coming to you with this flying rainbow lasagna idea, I'm not actually someone else. I'm not actually some totally different other than you weirdo being like, here, eat some lasagna. I'm actually you, coming from a different direction, offering myself something that will be nutritious and good for myself. But I understand the levels of skepticism that we're facing here. That's why I say, don't drop your guard. I understand what's going on. Okay, let me do one more. Miniman says the yellow chakra is in the belly. If so, how big? Not the belly. Like I define belly. Here's my navel. Belly down here where your intestines are, your guts, that's orange. Up here, solar plexus, above my navel but below my chest and below my breasts. That is where the yellow of intellect is. And how big? I don't know how to answer that question. It is the 3rd chakra. So in relation to the red chakra, it would be 1/3 the size of the red chakra. And Sandy says, in our homework, I thought you said they were all nested. Yes, the homeworks are all nested. What I did not understand was the questions of what are the dimensions that you need so that all 5 others nest. Like I don't understand your question about dimensions, because When I use the word dimensions, I'm talking about like the 0th dimension or like the 3rd dimension. So it's not a question of adding higher dimensions to making these chakras nest together properly. It's more a question of having, well, I'll show you on the picture. Show you pictures. Picture's easier. This is actually not accurate. This is actually totally accurate. So the way that these chakras nest together, some of these lower wheels fit directly on top of some of the membranes that are shaped like smiles or frowns of other chakras. They all nest in each other together, and it's not a question of higher dimensionality. What's malfunctioning is that some of them go like this. Instead of staying steady like this, they kind of go like this. And that is what needs to be healed. So we don't need to rearrange them. We don't necessarily need to squash them all together or stretch them out or pull them all apart. But what we need to do is stabilize them so that they're not squishing and squashing and moving back and forth. Okay, let me make that the last question for level 1. Oh, question.
It was the measurement I meant between just to draw them so that they look nested. Is there a measurement down the body?
Thank you so much, Sandy. There is a measurement. This is the homework that we're leading up to. So we did homework 1, 2, and 3 that are the basic abstract waveforms, not yet related to the physical human body. Now I'm giving you the anatomy backstory that you're going to need in order to do the homework lessons, but you don't have the lessons yet. So I'll go back to this for anyone who might want to be like kind of jumping ahead, who's really chomping at the bit. I'm giving you this so that you can have a nice, clear, like do a screenshot so that you can see what this is shaped like. And I deconstructed it into different lessons, but we're not there yet. But I'm going to show you how to draw all of this effectively, because I realize like this is information that might not be available from anyone else, and I want to make sure that it's totally explicit and available to you, and that way it's empowering to you, and it's not just my personal artistic expression. This is like correct anatomy. And so that's, I'll say, more information is coming as the semester continues, and you're doing awesome. Sandy's a lovely long-term participant. Thank you for being in the class. So anyway, so let me stop the recording for right now, move on to level 2.